On this episode of Hot Rod Hoarders, we get a 1984 Buick Grand National out of the basement. We put it back on the road for the first time in over 15 years. I know this thing is a little bit newer than what I normally feature on the channel, but it's a really cool piece. It's got really good history, it's got sentimental value, it's been a project, it's been something we've just kind of chipped away at. But I wanted to share it here with you, tell you a little bit more about it and what we like about it and what makes it cool. This car started life in Georgia. It actually didn't have a very good life for those first few years. It had engine issues, transmission issues. It actually sat at a dealership for a long time, one of those deals where somebody didn't pay their bill and it just sat there, and it actually sat long enough for the paint to go bad. And my father-in-law Charles ended up buying this thing from the dealership. He bought the car in 1991 and spruced it up a little bit. He fixed a few dings and things and sent it to have a paint job done, just kind of an affordable all-over paint job to make it black again. Charles loved the fact that this thing was a sleeper, and it was an obscure car compared to everything else you saw on the road. The completely blacked out trim, I mean, hardly any chrome at all on this car, and the fact that it had a turbocharged 3.8 liter V6 was kind of the icing on the cake for him as far as performance, cool appearance, and, you know, kind of an exclusive type of car. They didn't make all that many of them, especially in 1984. They only made 2,000 of these cars. So in 2015, I had convinced Charles to get his old 34 Plymouth Coupe out of the basement and get it running again. He had built this car as a hot rod in the 60s. I did a whole video on the car. I'm going to put a link in the description and a card up here where you can click and watch that. But also in his basement was this 84 Grand National. Similar situation. The car didn't get used very much, so it needed some work to be roadworthy again. And I offered to him an idea to get this thing back on the road where we could enjoy it, where he could enjoy it as well. So Charles had stored this thing in his basement for lots of years, and he had actually put plywood against the side of the car, which I was kind of afraid of. When I saw that, I was afraid it would mess the body up, but it protected it from dings and something knocking into it or whatever. It really did preserve this car pretty well. So when it came time to move it out, we obviously moved all that wood out of the way, pushed it outside, and this thing was super dusty from just sitting in the basement for a while, but it cleaned up really well. The old black paint still had a pretty good shine to it. I did, once I got it home, I run a buffer over it and waxed it, kind of cleaned it up a little bit more, gave it a pretty good, nice reflection, and there's still room for improvement there. And when we rolled it out of the basement, it wasn't getting any fuel, so we put a fuel pump on it there. We actually dragged both cars home at the same time. My buddy Kyle went all the way down there with his rollback, pulling a trailer, and it was just time to start working on it, time to start figuring out what these projects needed. When I first brought the car in, it was just general maintenance. I wanted to change the oil. I wanted to change every rubber piece under the hood because the car sat for a long time. Even though it was in the dry, I wanted to be sure that heater hoses, radiator hoses, all the vacuum hoses were good because I definitely wanted the thing to run right, and these things have 10 miles worth of vacuum hoses, so I wanted to make sure it was sealed up nice and tight. While I had it apart, I went ahead and put valve cover gaskets on it, put a couple of exhaust gaskets and stuff like that. Just stuff that I knew would be issues from age, from just sitting. And I went ahead and put a new air filter in it. Just obvious, easy things, spark plugs, plug wires, anything I could get to easily, I went ahead and changed. And I had new exhaust put on it, 2 1/4 inch exhaust with dual mufflers, nothing radical, just kind of a stock style setup. Through the years I've put a new coil on it, which was not a direct replacement because they don't make 84 model coils. You have to put an 86, 87, which requires a conversion kit. There's a lot of complications with that, which I've learned is typical with 84 and 85 Grand Nationals. These hot air engines are totally different than the 86, 87 engines. So parts availability is tough. Sometimes you just have to convert it. So I've run into that a few times. Trying to make this thing run good, I've adjusted the throttle position sensor, the idle air control valve. I've put O2 sensors in it. I've done a lot of things, a lot of different sensors, mass airflow sensor, EGR valve, just trying to make this thing run good and idle good and be consistent. And it's just finicky. It's not like a carbureted car where it's easy to diagnose. It's not like a brand new car where you can plug in a scanner and see exactly what's wrong with it. So it's been a lot of trial and error, but it's been a learning experience for me. Overall, the car is in excellent condition. All the glass is good. It did have window tint on it, and I peeled that off because it was looking pretty bad. But the paint, even though it's just a Mako paint job, it's not bad. It cleans up good. The wheels are perfect. I did put some new tires on there. The ones that were on there were flat spotted. They've been sitting forever. So I put radial TAs. I put the white letters to the inside because I just like the clean black look on this all black car. I put two 3560 R15s. Of course, I got them from Coker Tire. That's where I work. And that is always a no-brainer for me. If I'm shopping for tires, that's where I go. You know, we've been able to enjoy it. We've driven it to Somerset, Kentucky. We've driven it to car shows all around southeast Tennessee. It's been pretty great. One issue I've got to get fixed on it is the air conditioning. Right now, I got nothing. So I need to do a little bit of homework on that and figure out what's going on with it. But, you know, for the most part, this car has been really great for us. Sometimes it sits for a while. Sometimes, you know, I kind of get frustrated with it if I run into something that I can't figure out. But then a few months pass and I'll give it another shot and install a few more parts. And again, just trial and error until I can get it all figured out. So this is another one of those family cars. It's got sentimental value. It's not something I'm going to sell. It's not something I'm going to, you know, really modify in any kind of crazy way. It's just too good of a car to mess up. And so it's going to sit in our garage. We're going to keep chipping away at it. I'm going to keep driving it when it's convenient, when it's a nice day. And we're just going to do what we can to preserve this thing, preserve the memories that it's made, and go out and make new ones every chance we get.
It's clean.
Oh, we're going to clean it?
We're gonna clean it. Stop it. Good not, Lilo.
Okay.